Middle Earth. Eyes watch patiently with foul intent from hidden spaces. Mouths whisper from darkness to corrupt the minds of the just. Hands reach with greedy fingers from unwatched places to grasp for power and wealth. Who will raise their own light against the spread of this darkness? Who will stand against the unknown danger that creeps ever closer? To where shall we look for heroes?
Oh, right. That is some excellent Lord of the Rings introduction, cutscene, whatever you want to call it. That makes me want to go watch the movies, read the books. But right now, instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the Lord of the Rings adventure card game. This is a download for the PlayStation 4. Now, as PlayStation 4 console owners, we don't have a lot of choices when it comes to digital trading card games or trading cards games done digitally. But right here, what you have is a fairly decent game. Now, if you're like me, I saw this in the store. I was sitting there looking at it thinking like, this kind of looks a little bit too much like Hearthstone. So I was thinking about passing, but you know what? I went ahead and I went with it. So I'm going to share my experience with you guys, talk to you about some of that stuff. We're going to go over, some deck building. Going to show you one of the missions just to kind of get a grasp of the game, show you the layouts, go over some of the different unlocks, all that. Now, one thing you'll notice if you go to expansions, I won't do it because it cuts out the broadcast, but it basically it kind of like tweaks out the game, and it's, maybe they haven't programmed these yet. And one of the things about this game right out of the box is it almost doesn't feel like a complete game. And you're seeing this more and more in modern gaming as they're releasing games that aren't even done. In a lot of ways, this feels kind of like an alpha or a beta, which is some of the mechanics and just the lack of content and things like that. So, and it's almost kind of weird that at the end of a cycle, a generation of consoles, we got the new console generation coming out here in a few months, that they would release a game that was dependent on people buying it to finish it. So, all that being said, it doesn't necessarily make it a bad game by any means, but like I said, if you're like me, you're considering whether or not you should get this game, whether you should buy this game. If you're looking for like a ton of content, you're not going to get that here. But what you have is a well-balanced trading card game in the digital version. And one thing that's cool about that too is that back in the 90s there was a Lord of the Rings card game that came out. And as far as I know, this is the recreation of that, which is very cool because I didn't get a chance to play it. I had a friend that played it, but I just couldn't get into it. I played Magic at the time, and that was about all I could do. If you guys want to check out a video I did recently, it was I did all the Magic games you can play on PS3, and kind of talked about it in there. So if you want to go back, check that out. I won't bore you with the details on all that long story again. But basically, all that led me to this. I've just been jonesing to play some Magic, and unfortunately, they had the Duels of the Planeswalkers. There was 4 editions on the PlayStation 3, and basically, I guess it wasn't successful enough, or whatever. They decided to scrap it and go with I think it's called Magic Arena, something like that. It parallels the Moto, but it's a free-to-play / pay-to-win kind of game. It was supposed to come to PS4. It basically only ever went to Xbox and Steam, and then it just took a big giant and didn't make it to PS4. I was very disappointed about that. I did try it on PC, or was it mobile? I don't remember. Either way, I wasn't a huge fan. I did like the Duels of the Planeswalker. I hope they bring that back. I know that there is a new Magic game coming out, Magic Legends or something, but it looks awful. I mean, it looks like they took Diablo 3 engine from 30 years ago and tried to do whatever the hell they did with it. Doesn't look good. Like I said, all that being said, that is leading me to wanting to play some of these games. You know, with the current landscape, it's tough to go in and, you know, sit down and play a game of Magic. So we're left with these different options. I'm hoping the new cycle of generation of consoles brings us more of these digital card games. There's some cool games out there to play, but they're far and few between. But yeah, if you're looking for a trading card game to play on your console, right here is a very good start. What we'll do real quick, we'll go take a look. Now, there is the multiplayer variant. You do have to have PlayStation Plus, which annoys me to no end that that's something you have to play online. I really hate that. I'm not sure if you can do like System Link or Couch Co-op. I doubt it. Usually, you know, on these kinds of games, it's kind of dependent on the player not seeing what you're playing. So, anyhow, the multiplayer would definitely add a different layer to this game, maybe some more playability, that kind of thing. Would it be worth it to get to play solely for the multiplayer? I doubt it. The game was, you know, a little bit buggy, some of the menus and different things clunky, so, you know, we'll get into that a little later, but solely to buy this to play online, I would probably say no. It is definitely worth buying to play for the campaign. There's a ton of replayability, and as you can see here, there's a bunch of unlocks. Now, I did just buy some stuff. Got a new frame. These emotes you can buy when your guys drop in, they say a snappy thing, so that's probably more for playing online, but I did just unlock these card backs right here. Very nice. So you got some different options. Not a lot here. Again, I feel they would add to this. I should have bought a different avatar, but Aragorn's cool for me. Cool enough for me. And that's a quick look at that. So what we're going to do now, why don't we just jump into it? We're going to take a look at some of these decks right here. I'm saying decks. That's right. Okay, so again, the menus are a little bit clunky. These filters, they're there, but they're hard to use, and you know, it takes some getting used to. So why don't we go ahead and then here's another thing. I think this was the deck I was using last. I don't remember it, but anyways, it's hard to see what cards you have here, and I don't know a way to like pull this up. So instead of trying to do that, if you want to take a look, this is the deck I used to beat the last level, I think, going up against some orcs. So there's some cards in here. That wasn't a perfect deck. But what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and we're going to build a new deck. If I can figure out how. Might have to go back. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to go create deck. Hello and good evening. Thank you for stopping by, saying hi. We're going to be going over the basics here, guys, so bear with me. We'll get to some action. If you're looking for that, maybe come on back in a few minutes. I get long-winded on these things. Okay, so instead of trying to do that, you can name the deck. You can. I don't think you can change the name of the deck, so make sure to name it what you want it when you make it. So what you do, you start your deck. You've got 3 heroes. These guys are paramount to your success. As you can see, these different colors, they represent different spheres. Think of, if you're used to Magic the Gathering, think of mana symbols, mana colors. Makes it easier for me there. Certain cards require that you have, 1, 2, or 3 of these heroes from the specific, sphere of influence. So, and like I was talking about, the game, it doesn't feel necessarily complete in the sense that I wasn't able to, kind of build what I wanted to build. I had to use the best of the best. And, maybe I'm just not that good at the game, but it just didn't seem like there was card synergy and stuff to use some of the different styles of play. I basically was able to find the best way to play, and that was kind of like the only way to beat the game, and that was, I basically played through the game on the easy setting because it's, and again, it's not necessarily designed for you to out of the box play on the hardest setting. You don't have the cards, you got to get used to playing the game. But here we go. He's like, think of a lord. He pumps and buffs all your dwarves. Very good. As far as I know, you start out with all the heroes. I thought it said when I beat a mission that I unlocked a hero, but it was like one I already had, so it was kind of confusing. I'm not sure what happened with that. We're going to go here. He's a great tank, so you've got your lord, your tank. You could go with some DPS or some of these other guys. I used Legolas for a while, but his in the later levels, the damage, like block is a thing, and 1 damage does not penetrate block, so it's kind of useless late in the game. He's great early, so again, it's going to just switch it up. It's going to depend on your playstyle. What I want to do is just show you right now the build I use to basically beat the whole game. Okay, so Erwin has a very good ability. Not only, you know, it's Erwin, right? But she does a heal 1 point of life every turn. So that's, you know, that's very key. You want to keep your heroes alive. Without them being alive, you're going to have a hard time. So what we're going to do, we're going to add some filters real quick. We're going to start out with creatures. I always like to start a deck building out with creatures and going from there, and then going back and filling. It automatically gives you the spheres you can use based on it, but you could activate those if you want. Gonna go with rare, uncommon. I'm not really exactly sure what those are, but I do like that pipe symbol. You gotta have your pipes. We're gonna go ahead and not show the ones we own or don't own, because you know. Oh, and before I forget, I'll have to make sure and go show you how you can buy and unlock the cards, although it's pretty straightforward. Okay, so we're having a dwarf theme here. As you can see, they have different abilities. Some of the cards are vanilla. You've got your bears. Each class has a bear. Different cards give buffs to certain races and different things like that. You've got your casting cost. Again, you've got your attack power. The yellow is sort of symbolizes what I would say is it's like a magic attack. Let's call it that. I think they use the term spirit in this. The card draw, again, is one of those mechanics that I just really didn't feel like they utilized good enough in this to kind of have like a ramp and a card draw. I just don't think the game is complete enough to use that. If it is, I didn't see it. Maybe you have to have all the cards unlocked to figure that out. Maybe it's an end-game strategy. Again, block is important, so we're just going to add these guys. They're great early drops. They have block, so that mitigates 1 point of damage every time they're attacked. A guy with block and guard, they come in to the battlefield guarding. Guarding is a key mechanic in this. Like I said, there's a tutorial. We'll show you that. I'm not going to go over the tutorial, but I'll show you the different options you have for playing the game. The tutorial was sort of helpful, but you're still going to have a lot of figuring out to do once you start the game. We're going to bring Gandalf. This guy's pretty cool for fighting the objectives, so I usually at least have one of him in my deck just for that, you know, that mission where you have a bunch of these you have to kill. A lot of the dwarves are weak in the magic aspect, which, you know, seems to theme well. And then again, Erwin has she's basically my caster, so she is like the only strong attack against magic, which makes this build particularly hard. But again, I'll show you some characters to add to that to kind of help with that. Healing is very important in this game. We'll bring this guy in because he's a low drop and he comes in guarding, which is always good. I like to bring in, you know, Aragorn here, as I like to call him, from the Prancing Pony. Ranged is another important tactic. That's more advanced, so we're just going to go with like a real basic build. These people heal when they come in, which is nice. But yeah, basically you have to just balance between blocking and attacking the right targets. In this game, you don't have to kill all the targets, but you almost do, but you don't. This is like, almost wish they had a sideboard. That's a great sideboard card. He oftentimes is a dead card in your hand. This guy is really crucial, and again, using some of those, you know, he gives the +2 spirit attack. It is definitely good to have some ranged, but again, that's more advanced, so we're just going to keep it simple. Gotta roll in with some Tom Bombaldi. He basically has he's a removal spell on a stick, which is nice, so we got that going for us. We're going to bring some Radagast, because why not? You know, if you haven't read the books or watched even, I think the animated series uses him as well. The Peter Jackson movies left some of the biggest parts and coolest features out of the movies, which was upsetting, but you know, we're not going to get too much into that. The Lord of the Rings movies are good. The Hobbit movies are good. They're good. They're worth watching for sure. And again, this guy, you can utilize him with healing. So we do have some, you know, Erwin can heal, and I'll show you there's a different attachment we can get. We don't usually attach, you know, buffs to these guys, although you can. So again, you know, and here's just a quick look. I've unlocked, I'd say maybe half the cards that you can unlock, and then as you play through the game, each mission you beat, you unlock a couple cards, and then I don't know if the next time you beat it, if you unlock more cards, if you beat it on a harder setting, if you unlock more cards. I would hope so, but I mean, I don't know if I see that happening. So let's see here. Now let us go to the enchantments. There's a ton of different stuff you can do here. We're going to throw in some dwarven axes. Oh, sorry, I went through that a little fast. It's pretty good. +2 if you're a dwarf for 1. very useful. Drop it on Gimli and Dunmar. I don't think I said his name right at all. Anyway, so this, if you're going with Gandalf, this is a 2 for right here. You got to have this and Gandalf and the mana to cast it, and hope that he stays in. But he's totally a good, you know, it's Gandalf. You got to have him in there. So you add that to it. This is a really good spell. From what I've noticed though in the game is that once you use a card and it's in your graveyard, essentially you don't get to shuffle your graveyard in every so in a mission there's, let's say, five levels. So you basically have to use your entire card stash to go through all those levels. So basically stuff like this, unless you're saving it for the end of the, you know, the harder parts of the thing, that'll come in useful. So, you know, again, that's something you might have to keep in your mind's eye. There's another good one, Gondor Shield. Use that for a while. That's a good one. Straight up +1 attack. Block is useful. This is a great one to have, and I love the artwork. He's, you know, he's healing up over there with finding his herbs and getting his Longbottom leaf. And yeah, so and again, this is an enchantment, so it stays on. It's good to put on your characters, keep them alive. That's very important. If your characters are dropping, you're not going to make it. And even if you're burning through a lot of your cards in the early rounds, by the time you get to the last round, you're not going to have anything to fight the hardest level. So it's, you know, it's resource management. It's you know, strategy. One of the things that makes this game very cool. You really only need one of those. You can only attach it once, and it's only on Gimli. It's a hit and a miss because you can't attach, like, say, that self-preservation to him, but you can attach it to Erwin, and then you can use her hot to heal him every round. But one of the huge things in this game is the threat meter. You will have more frustration trying to battle that threat meter, so I recommend that you add these threat cards. There is one more I think I'll go find. Let's see here. And then again, when you're building your decks, you can have, there's actually, I think, a trophy for building 9 different decks or something like that. The platinum on this thing is a joke, like 0.03% or something, so, and it just requires a ridiculous amount of playing this game, which if you love this game, you might not have a hard time with that. But if you're going for trophies on this, I don't recommend this game for that at all. But again, as you're building decks, you may want to specify decks for, like, orcs, spiders, and you'll know that going in. You can actually look at Sauron's deck before you go in to the fight as well, if you want to adjust accordingly. Like I said, I just basically did this basic build here, and it was good enough to get through, like, the beginning setting of the game and kind of see everything that you want to see. One thing about this game, it does a very good job of narrative storytelling. If you're into that reading or even just listening to the text, they do a great job. This game immerses you in the lore so good. I love all this artwork. It really brings me into the Lord of the Rings, makes me feel like I'm there. Reading the novels, it just kind of is giving me a visual representation that is so, vivid in my mind. And there was a I don't know if any of these publishers were involved, any of the developers, any of the R&D, whoever. I don't know if they were involved in the making of the Lord of the Rings game online. I'm not sure if that's defunct now at this point either. I did play it years ago. It was basically, if you weren't World of Warcraft, so Blizzard, basically Turbine, which turned into Tribute, I think. They basically made, like, every MMO that wasn't World of Warcraft back in the day. So I think it was a Daybreak and, let's see, Standing Stone Games, Codemasters. There was a lot of names attached to that. So, I don't know if any of those guys were involved in this. All I could see was that Asmodee Digital and some of the names on the front of that one. Nothing I'd really heard of before. So again, that game, the Lord of the Rings Online, did such a really good job of immersing you in the lore. It really made you feel like you were in the novel, in the movies. It was an excellent game that way. Unfortunately, it was a subpar MMO that just kind of got swept under the rug with different things. But the fact that it was free to play made it very accessible. I probably would have still been playing it, but you know how it is with PC gaming. You got to have the top of the line all the time. And that's another really good thing about console gaming as well, is that if you preserve your console and your games, I mean, you can go back to this point in time at any time in the future. Yeah, you know, if you don't keep your PC or you crash it or whatever, all your games from the last 10 years, you may never be able to play them again. So, one argument that's nice about console gaming over PC gaming, although, you know, PC gaming is the way to go. Okay, so now we're gonna add our spells to the game. Again, this is a good spell. These are more like, think Yu-Gi-Oh traps. I think they're called what are they called when Sauron, treacheries when Sauron casts them. But yeah, just think of them as traps. So they lie in wait. Again, these spells are really good, but you don't get them back. So like after you use them in the 4th round, you won't have this spell to count on again, and you could, you know, it could have been a card you were really counting on. This was good early on. The fact that you could heal your whole team or 4-to-1 character. Again, this right here is an example of, see, I would need 2 spheres of influence from the purple to cast that card, but there's other cards like it. The theme of this, it seems like they got kind of lazy. They basically cut and paste, you know, the Hobbit card and then a Dunedain and, you know, a dwarf. They're all the same, but they, you know, change it a little bit. That's not uncommon and stuff like this, but I felt that was a little bit lazy on their part, but it's still cool. This was a really good spell to have as well. Readying a character could be critical, especially because a lot of time you'll have one character like Gimli that's OP or Erwin when you need her to be attacking with the spirit damage. This is again an example of ramp. I could never really get it to be useful, and again, it'd be better if you could use this card every time you drew it, but you only get to draw it the one time. This is key right here. So this mitigates threat and gives you healing. Again, there's cards like this that are orc specific, so you can deal those to every orc. I've brought those in a lot of missions, and most of the time this ends up being a waste. It's that one card that you need to top deck. Other than that, it just kind of sits in your hand, and you're like, oh, should I use it? There's only 2 orcs, and I could get more out of it, kind of thing. So, in a pinch, it's great, but I don't recommend trying to like jam it in your deck. Same with these. These are good, but you know, damage to everybody. An AoE style spell, but again, you're just searching for that right time to use it. This is critical, probably in the more advanced levels, but I mean, basically, if you're losing your heroes, you're out of luck, in that sense, or your characters, I believe they're called. No, heroes. Yeah, that's right. Card draw, it didn't seem like you ever had enough mana to really like do more than one thing, so you're always just managing cards. A lot of time you end up discarding. So again, I couldn't really find an engine to work with the card draw. This is a really good one. Lambus you unlock. The other one I think I had to buy. But the fact is that that's 2 versus 1. But you do get the health there, which is nice. And then again, you know, some more of the same here. So there's definitely a lot of different builds you can do. Like I said, I just don't know if this game is all the way there yet in terms of R&D or not even research, but just development in terms of where they wanted it to be. I'm not sure what their vision is with this. There's not a lot of information, but yeah, like I said, if you're out there looking for a fun game to play, you like trading card games, you don't mind a challenge, you like these strategy style games, you'll probably enjoy this, regardless of if you like Lord of the Rings or trading card games or any of that. The learning curve is there. There's the tutorial, so you can definitely do it. So we're gonna take this deck. Hey, there's that trophy that I was talking about. So very cool. You get that for building X amount of decks. And then real quick before I move away, so we will I just want to go and show you what it's looking like. So these are basically the only cards left that I need to buy, I guess, if I'm doing that right. Which is, in a content standpoint, it's like I really like grinding points, unlocking things, getting more powerful spells, gear, whatever you name it, characters, and you know, I basically only played every mission one time, and this is what I'm working with here. So whether or not, if they put out an expansion or something like that, or whatever, I don't know if I'd hope it'd be a free like update or something, because I don't know if I'd want to pay the price to, you know, get more of this when really I don't know what I'm going to be getting, and ultimately there wasn't a lot of meat on the bone here. But like I said, if this is a game in development and they're just trying to get it out there to get some more funding to to make the game full, complete. Like, I fully support that. I wish they would go about it a different way, kind of present it like that, instead of just trying to be like, hey, here's this game. Can I call it a game? I don't even know if you could call this a game, but it is very much a playable, whatever this is, digital version of the Lord of the Rings adventure card game. Now the moment you've all been waiting for. We're gonna get into it. We're gonna get into the action. I promise we're almost there. And once we get into it, it'll start rolling around. So I'm gonna zoom out just to give you this whole. See, if you know me, you know how much I like maps. If I could, I would have a map adorned on every open surface there was. Like, this map to me, it just, I could stare at this thing all day. It's for, like, every time I look at it, I see a new wrinkle, a new crease, a new mountain, whatever. I'm pretty sure this is the map from the book. Some of the books you buy, they'll have this map in the beginning. You can buy some fancier editions, you know, that actually come with the map. I saw one at a thrift store. It was the whole set, like these leather bound, super cool. Way too much though. At this point, I wish I would have bought that now, but you know how hindsight is. Okay, so I don't know how to bring that back down to the zoomed in view, so I had to go back. But yeah, basically what you're looking at here, here's the missions. I believe this is like I was actually kind of afraid of this because this part of the movie totally freaks me out. So I was like, but I guess it's just like a deck testing engine. And then you've got your tutorial, which, as you can see, there's 5 different pieces of that. Oh man, I always do that. And then basically once you reach a campaign level, you've got the 5 different missions. Within each mission, there's, each thing has 3, 4, 5, whatever levels that you have to overcome, and then ultimately fight a boss at the end. You've got these different challenging, different challenge levels. Like I said, narratives is a good enough challenge. It's not like you're going to blow through it unless you're a master at this game. You don't really have the cards to begin with that are excellent, so you're trying to figure out the game and whatnot, and you do get to see the story, so that's cool. And then if you go back and you look, so you get a thing for each time you complete it. So don't feel like you have to play on the hardest setting right out the gate. You're going to get there, and you're going to get different rewards for doing that. So whether or not you unlock more cards each time you do this up to the 4th plus, and then within each one there's challenges that you have to meet in the challenge itself. So, assuming if you get all those and you do all that, maybe you're going to get some really cool stuff. I didn't look that far into it. There are branching pathways within the story. I did go back and see if maybe that would open up some more content if I went and did this other thing instead of this one thing. Ultimately, it just led to the same ending and didn't open up any more content. So whether those choices, it's just going to be, hey, I want to play this again this way and do one different fight or whatever the case may be there. But realistically, at the end, it's going to be the same thing you run into. And then again, you can look at Sauron's deck here. See, I wish they would have had this view for when you're looking at your own deck, because it doesn't bring that card up there, so you don't know what the hell it is. You're like, pursued by Shadow Great. I don't really know what that is, but anyhow, that's a look at that. What I'm gonna do now, we're gonna go. There's a good narrative at the beginning of this, so I want to let you guys hear that. We're gonna get into it. And before I do that, you get, like I said, you get these campaigns, and then you get the encounters. The encounters are basically a campaign, but instead of it being the 5 missions like I showed you, they're just standalone missions. So they're effectively 3 more missions in a campaign. So not even a complete 5. Oh man, I never know which way to go with that. They're not even a complete 5-pack in a mission. They just gave you 3 scattered there. They're not necessarily any more challenging than any of the missions, but in a way they are. They're definitely harder than the first campaign, but I don't know, they're not like overly difficult. And then we're not gonna do that. Let's do, I think this is the deck that I just made. Yeah, let's try the deck we just made. Is it not letting me? Okay, I don't know what's happening. So we're gonna start quest. We're gonna go on the first one. Okay, that's fine. Alright, now enjoy this narrative.
After arriving at Beyond's Hall, you've learned the famous Bilbo Baggins was taken by Mirkwood spiders mere hours ago. Without hesitation, you volunteer to find and retrieve the Hobbit. hopefully before he's consumed, or worse. And so you find yourself before Greenwood the Great, that the wary and the wise call Mirkwood. A sleeping evil once inhabited the Greenwood, but was purged many years ago. The forest has since known a period of peace and the return of wholesome life. As the shadows now gather under the trees, you sense a foulness on the air. You fear evil may have returned to this realm. You begin to search for clues as to which direction the spiders took Bilbo. There are ample signs of recent struggle in the small glade, and several of the hobbit's possessions are strewn about. After a few moments, you notice a gleam of metal on the forest floor. Perhaps a sign. You're about to investigate, as several giant spiders creep into the glade. They don't seem at all interested in assisting the search. Quite the contrary.
The kingdom of old shall be renewed. I will go and look on the halls of Durin.
I am Arwen, Elrond's daughter.
Like any good card game, you get a chance to throw back some cards you might not need. Like, I'm not going to need this Gandalf right away, just as much as it pains me to ditch it. And, you know, I'm probably not going to need this guy, although that 8... Yeah, no, I'm probably not going to need... you know what? Actually, we'll hang on to that guy, just so I can show you. So there we go. One thing about this game is that at the start of a turn, a lot of stuff will happen, and if you're jamming on buttons, or you're trying to look at a card, or you're trying to look at your spirit meter or whatever, you could miss things. Like Erwin has a healing thing every upkeep, every proc. Right now, no one's injured, so it's not going to proc. But if I was, say, clicking on buttons or something like that, it would push me through that, which, you know, and then you miss it. And I've had that happen, and it's the difference in being able to finish the campaign and having to start over. So do keep that in mind. There's a lot of clunky things like that in here, trying to switch back and forth. It's like, seems like it's always a different button. You have to hold the button sometimes, sometimes you don't. It's weird. So you just get confused, especially if you're not really paying attention or you're thinking about something else. At least for me. One thing you want to do, this fate events, these spirit meters, are more important than you may think to begin with. Some of them you can only use at a location specific, and it'll tell you. And some of the challenges that you're doing throughout the mission are required that you use these, or you don't use these. So if you're going for a full complete on that, do look at it before you start the match. It might save you some headache going into that. And then again, so one good thing about having enough spirit or fate in the fate meter over here, I don't know what I keep calling it, is that it won't auto end your turn if you're able to cast one of these spells. So a recommendation, a tip I give is to say always have enough in there, so that, you know, that way you don't miss out. And I'll go over that again here in a minute. And then again, you have on the other side, you have the threat meter. And these are killer. You want to keep this threat down. You don't want these to be happening to you. Some of them are so brutal. Some of them aren't that bad, and then others are just, you basically lose the game once it says 50, you lose the game, but sometimes it'll get to like 41, and there's just nothing you can do because it just keeps nasty, just adding so much more threat. You're done. And then, you know, you've got... Okay, so yeah, then again, you know, you can zoom in on those cards. I wish you could scroll through, but you have to do each one. So again, this is part of the menu that gets confusing, especially because you hit L2 and R2 and, you know, all these different buttons. And as I mentioned earlier, very important in this game is guarding. So what you can do as a first play is defend, and then that way it'll force the enemy to attack that specific player. Since the spiders are pretty weak, I'm just going to cast this guy. He's got block. So then you're going to want to add block. Or actually have him block. It'll force the guy to attack you. Instead of attacking me, he casts a spell. So a treachery, what it is it's almost like a trap. So if I play a specific thing to that treachery, it'll either exhaust my character when I bring it in, it'll counter my next spell, whatever it may be, adds a different, you know, unknown to the game. But unlike, say, Magic the Gathering, you don't take your turn and then the other player takes their turn. It's you take a turn, they take a turn, you take it in this game. So you got to keep that in mind, especially when you're setting up your, your casting your creatures, your spells, that kind of thing into the field. You want to always keep Sauron's mana in mind, and a lot of time he won't even cast spells until after he's attacked with all his guys. So that's another thing to watch for. It's almost an anomaly what he just did there, but it's probably because I defended and he didn't have a favorable attack. A lot of times when he doesn't have a favorable attack, he won't attack at all, which is weird. So the AI isn't always the most consistent either. I did want to get this guy out, so although I won't have the energy to show you at this turn, I'll show you the importance of that next turn. Okay, see, so he just added an attachment to this guy, which you can see there. So you get, that's a nasty one, man. So basically you don't want to attack that guy, just let him attack and use your defenders. This guy's still defending, and again, I don't think he's attacking because he doesn't have that favorable matchup. So in this example here, you can see you have an attack, what I would say is like a spirit attack or a mana attack or a magical attack, whatever you want to call it, which is the middle number, and then your life points. This game is almost unfair in the fact that you need the attack so much, but then you later in the levels and stuff you need that mana attack, but it's super hard to balance both. And that's where cards like the Longbeard Mapmaker comes in handy. So you do have to balance all of that. Now if one of the enemies was defending, I would not be able to attack that directly unless I had ranged, and that's another good thing. Range can attack flying enemies, range can attack through blocking. But again, I wanted to build like a ranged archery deck. It just wasn't a mechanic that was super useful, at least this early for me in the game. Maybe I don't have the right cards or the right play style to that. Often I like to wait to attack with Gimli till he gets his attack bonus, but a lot of time that can be problematic. So I don't have enough mana to cast or focus. I don't know what the heck they call it in this game, but it'd be cool to equip him with that Dwarven Axe, although he doesn't quite need it. Taking out that spider. Again, I don't really want to attack this guy. I'm going to force him to attack me. But nothing I can do there. And again, he might not even attack. He's not even taking his turn. So we'll just take this guy out. Get the threat. Why not? Get him off the field. Oh yeah. Bilbo's sword, Sting. Oh wow, okay, so I just either had to clear the enemies or do that other thing. I guess I wasted my attack. What I could have done there is instead of attacking with Erwin, I could have added her fate to the fate meter, her spirit. And again, right here is where the game gets a little bit confusing. It's almost like it tells you have to travel like instantly as fast as you can. But if there's effects and things on the field, like enemies that haven't attacked yet, certain triggers that you forget, they will stack, and it will actually cost you when you get on that last level. It's the difference between you finishing and having to start over again, which you gotta face. And this is also a good opportunity to, if these guys hadn't attacked, you could set up defenders. You could cast this. If I had the mana, I could equip my guy, and Sauron's not going to be able to act. What he has up there, though, I believe is going to add 2 threats to the threat meter, represented by those red dots up there. So what I could do is I could take, instead of traveling right now, I could take another turn and attempt to get set up for the next round, because a lot of time you'll jump into the next round and it'll be a brutal ambush that you're just not prepared for, and then you might win that fight, you might limp through that fight to the next fight, but then by the time then you're not going to have the resources to beat the next fight or even the next fight after that. So basically you need to be each one of these rounds handling it. We're just going to do travel, just show you what happens.
Bilbo's mind must have been clear during the first moments after his capture. You notice that he slid his sword along the undergrowth as he was hauled away. When the spider's poison immobilized him, he must have dropped Sting. Encouraged, you venture into the shadowy green-grey wilderness that is Mirkwood.
The small cocoon is dropped before the lady.
Eat it, my lady. Scrumptious it is. Tasty, sweet.
The skinny creature squeals in pleasure and anticipation, jumping to and fro on arms and legs as if a spider himself. The creature gives the cocoon a kick.
False it is, Battens, trickster, thief, cheater. Eats it. Eats it.
The enormous spider moves to hover over the cocoon. Spear-sized mandibles emerge slowly from its dripping maw.
Suck it to bounces, milady. No hangingness or dryingness needed. Not like tough dwarfs or tricky elves. Sweet and juicy habits. Just leave closes, milady. For precious is in its pockets, my precious.
The spider monstrosity is about to delve into her meal when a sudden noise is heard from the edge of the lair. Flapping its hands nervously and bobbing its scrawny neck, the creature pleads.
Don't listen to woodsy noises, milady. Eat, while habit is roses.
Someone has arrived, and the spiders move to greet them.
For hours you delve into the menacing forest. Thorny undergrowth and sticky crawlers grab at you as if with minds of their own. A subtle change in the echo of the wood heralds a change in scenery, and you soon come upon a dark, gurgling stream. While the watery smells and soothing sounds relax you, you've been warned not to trust any water in Mirkwood, save for that gathered from fresh rain. The spiders must have crossed the stream by traversing the canopies above, but how will you cross? A nearby dead tree may be the answer. You attempt to push at the dry trunk, hoping for it to fall and bridge the stream. Unfortunately, your efforts attract the local wildlife.
And here would be an example of what I was talking about, where if you're clicking through, you'll miss this trigger, and you know how it is, you don't want to miss those triggers. Very critical. But wow, yeah, that was some excellent narrative. Very good storytelling. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to blast through this, show you guys what it looks like in what I'm going to call full speed. And yeah, we'll go from there. I can't remember if this is the one that gives you the option after this, so we'll see. We'll show you that branching pathway. If not, guys, like I said, thanks for coming by. Thanks for stopping in, checking out this stream. Hopefully, if you're like me and you're wondering, hey, did I want to get this game? I don't know. I would say if you like Lord of the Rings, you like trading card games, get this game. Don't even worry about it. Just get it. You're gonna enjoy it. If you're on the fence, get it. Play it. I mean, hopefully this video shows you enough of what it is, so that to help you make that decision, and that's what we're going for here. Should have some more streams. Got another Platinum Trophy guide coming out. Just played through Emerald Shores. Like I said, go check out the PS3 video for the Magic the Gathering to show you the different games on there. Basically just played Magic 2014. They're very similar, but yeah, like I said, go check out that video. Make sure to check out Easy starting up Top Shelf Tuesdays. He's got Maker's Mark and some more Albert Odyssey on the Sega Saturn coming this Tuesday, so make sure to check that. Check out all of our videos in our live stream PS4 playlist if you want to see more stuff like this. And ultimately, if you like what you see, give us a like, drop a subscription. We appreciate it. And unless anything else pops up, you've been hanging out with Brothers Forge Gaming. This is the Lord of the Rings adventure card game, available as a download. I would say, as a recommendation, why not? I don't think I could say absolute recommend, but I'm going to give it a why not. What do you got to lose? Why don't you check out the rest of this bit of this playthrough? I'll see you next time. Okay, so here would be an example. If you travel right now, which it kind of makes it seem like you should, you have the potential of being attacked by both of those enemies without being able to respond, gaining whatever threat is on the board. It's good to clean this up and give yourself whatever bonuses, benefits you can get going into the next round. I wasn't able to add any spirit to the spirit meter. We'll see if I can do that. And then again, similar to, say, a Yu-Gi-Oh! Or a game like that, you can only have so many things on the field at one time, which is limiting. So, you know, as a resource management game, you don't want to be sacrificing pawns to bring in bigger, better guys. You know, so it's all about utilizing that, but sometimes you got to make the call. This guy has a feature, Stealth. So until he takes action, you can't target him, which is cool. And then he gets a buff fighting the hazards, which, as you saw, you had to clear the one hazard to clear the event. And there's a lot of that in this, so keep an eye on that. I'm going to show you the add to the spirit meter. Now that wasn't enough. Well, let's see. Let's add this guy. Actually, this guy. So now, if I wanted, I could get that. It is a location-specific event, so if you want to get it, you got to get it before you travel. If you want to keep adding to that, you can, but again, you're going to get threat, you're going to get different triggers, he's going to keep casting spells. But now that I do have enough spirit over there, if I were to say, make my next action with this guy, which I'm going to do. Oh, shoot, of course that guy comes out. It wouldn't auto-end my turn because I can still take an action, so that's key, and that'll save your butt in a lot of spots. Well, alright guys, like I said, I hope this was helpful. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next run.
The dead tree falls across the stream with a splintery crack. You use the fallen trunk to step across, careful to not slip. What could cause wild creatures to attack so? Perhaps the corrupted stream is their main source of water. As you jump off the trunk on the far side, a deep rumble greets you. For a brief moment you wonder what could make such a sound, but only for a brief moment. For out of the shadows shambles an enormous black bear. It roars. The sound is staggering. It fills the air like a living thing, terrifying and primordial. The impact of the roar sends you reeling backwards, almost into the stream. It charges, an avalanche of fur, teeth, and claws.